From Rocca Massima, we welcome GFNY Day.
Benvenuti a Rocca Massima.
Bienvenue a Rocca Massima.
Benvenuti a Rocca Massima.
Ci vediamo a GFNY La Beaujanie, GFNY France e poi GFNY Italia.
Bien sûr, on se voit tous là-bas.
Thank you, Mirko, and welcome to the third Sunday in May. We are so pleased that you're here. It's not where we wanted to be. We wanted to be in Fort Lee today, but we're looking forward now, and we're looking forward to all of the good things that GFNY has to bring us in the coming year. So without further ado, we'll be talking to Mirko again later in the show about GFNY Italy. There's so much happening that I am really pleased to be able to bring in Lydia and Uli Flum, the founders of GFNY, so that we can talk about everything that's going on with GFNY. Coming up after that, we'll have more from Sean Gadd, the director of GFNY Mexico, who's just off of the GFNY Mazatlan race, 1,800 participants, which is just a phenomenal celebration of GFNY that happened in Mexico. There is more coming from Mexico, believe it or not, Oaxaca, and then, of course, Cozumel, the biggest party on two wheels, coming in November. So we'll talk to Sean in an interview that we recorded on Zoom earlier this week. We'll talk to Mirko. We'll talk to the head of group rides, Jared, here in New York City. We'll talk to Valerie Williams, our GFNY Marathon Ambassador. Yes, you heard that right, GFNY Marathon. But now we're going to take you over to Lucca, Italy, and talk to Lydia and Uli.
Hi.
Lydia, Uli, welcome. So glad to see you. It's so great to talk to you like this. The last time we spoke like this was GFNY Day in August of 2020. And that was, you guys were in Vaujany for Alps Vaujany, and it was a sign that racing was back. So you guys leaned in, were forward thinking, you understood what had to be done so that we could all get back to racing, and we're ahead of the curve in getting the world of cycling back to racing. Tell us about what it was like to work through all that.
It was difficult, but it was something that was not the question, that if we can do it, that we will do it. If we are allowed to hold a race, that we will hold a race. And the first one was Alps Vaujany in France. And I was standing talking to you with Lydia at the climb of Alpe d'Huez, where we're going to be in a month from now. We have a new race from Vaujany, climbing up the legendary Alpe d'Huez. And it was the beginning of the GFNY races during the pandemic, and we had 5 more since with all the protocols. And it was hard, but we do this out of passion, so there was no doubt that we would not do it.
So Florida, Ecuador, Cozumel, now Mazatlan. We will be in France in a few short weeks. I cannot believe that. My bag is half packed. I've got my ticket booked. I've got my hotel figured out. So how do you keep making these things happen? How do you find, what's the process that you go through to find and source these races to create these incredible experiences for the riders?
We think about you guys, the riders. Where do you want to ride? Where do you want to come for your cycling vacation? We look where there is a viable course that we can make happen with local authorities, and we try to figure it out in the calendar and make it a great package, sports vacation, not just for the cycling, but also for the family.
Awesome. And now, of course, what was once the Global Cycling Marathon Series is now the Global Endurance Sport Series, because we've added GFNY Marathon Florida. So what was the inspiration for holding a marathon?
Lydia and I were both come from an endurance background. We're not just, if you want to say, cyclists. We're runners. We're happy triathletes. Lydia's done 20 Ironman or something like that. So for us, endurance sports is always very close to our heart, and so is marathon running. So I think it was overdue that we would be adding a marathon and possibly later a triathlon or a duathlon to GFNY, because we think endurance events are really fitting really well together, and it doesn't have to be separated from each other, as we have shown and enjoyed racing both. I really enjoy doing marathons, running, as much as cycling. It's a very different sport, but also a lot of similarities. And opening your horizon and do other things is always a good thing.
We were at a race and we talked to the timer who was doing a chip check, and he's looking at all these results going back like 20 years. And,
I'm a dinosaur, yes.
and the timer said, wow, Uli, sport is your life. And I think like with GFNY, we started with cycling because that was this natural fit. New York had a marathon. New York already had triathlon, had swimming, has really everything, but not a cycling marathon, which is what this series started with. And I think with marathon, triathlon, duathlon, trail running, mountain bike, it's all part of endurance sport that we love, and experiencing it under this familiar experience that GFNY offers. You know that you can travel around the world and know what GFNY family is going to be there. This GFNY consistent experience, way of communication, the way that you're arriving at the race and what's going to happen at the race. It's part of this GFNY experience that lets you have a great experience no matter where you go.
With like-minded people.
Right.
So diversity of location, diversity of the GFNY peloton, more coming up in France. We talked about that. Peru and Bali is back this year in October. So, but I'm fixated personally on La Vaujany because I'm looking forward to being there. Tell us what's going to make this race so special.
I think in one word, it's L'Alpe d'Huez, which as cyclists we all know is one of the most famous climbs that features at Tour de France every other year. It's what makes Tour de France winner if you're finishing there at the very front or as in the first place. And to just as a cyclist to experience that climb is something that you have to do once in your life. And doing this as part of a race, I think is really unique and special. There's not many chances for cyclists to do that. And for us to be able to work together again with Vaujany, to bring two experiences in Vaujany, for riders to be able to ride that climb, race that climb is really cool. Having this in June, climbing Alpe d'Huez, first Col de Sarenne, 2,000 meters high, you go through Alpe d'Huez, then you descend on the other side, and then you do the classic climb from the bottom of Alpe d'Huez all the way up to the 1,840 meters, and then still have to go to Vaujany. It's a really cool course and very different from the race that we do in August, where you have Col de la Croix de Fer and Col du Glandon, which are also famous climbs, but it's a very, very different race. So they're while they have the same start and finish, those two races are very different courses. And if you are up for the Alpe d'Huez experience, June 20 is the day where you got to be in France.
And two more things that are super cool about GFNY La Vaujany. There are two big important hosts in this race, La Vaujany being the start and finish, and Alpe d'Huez, and they both have demonstrated an amazing amount of support for GFNY La Vaujany to happen, both from the Vaujany side and from Alpe d'Huez. They're going to be making sure that the athletes and you guys are having an incredible race day experience, music, everything. It's going to be great. And the other very cool thing, Mr. Bear Mountain, Cedric Cass, is the technical director of the race. The first man up Bear Mountain in 2018 and 19.
And 19, you saw him in the video.
Yeah, he was in the video. Yeah. He's the technical director. So he joins us in this job of passion and making GFNYs in his home country. And he's already working very hard and going to be making a very special race.
Right now we have those two races in France. Next year we'll have probably 4, maybe even 5 in France.
Wow. Okay, so I don't know if I have enough vacation time to make them all, so we're gonna have to choose wisely.
You got to go pro, Chris. At some point, you got to go pro.
I don't know if there's a pro media gadfly classification that's out there, but if there was one, I could probably make it. So I don't want to overlook the challenge of GFNY Peru, which is coming up July 11th, right? So you have a significant amount of climbing in that race. You have the altitude. You have the beauty of Cuzco. How did the Peru race get started?
We met Ale, the organizer of this race, already a couple of years ago. We've been having ongoing discussions. finally she had the commitment from Cusco to bring the race, to bring GFNY. Cusco is extremely excited to have GFNY and GFNY athletes having the international brand and making an amazing experience for all the athletes, for all of you. What's really cool about this race, you're passing by directly at some ancient historic sites.
UNESCO World Heritage.
They're going to be stunning. The scenery, the nature of the Andes, you're going in valleys with really high mountains. They're just breathtaking. And it's going to be literally the world's highest Gran Fondo.
We had that title first, I think it was in
Colombia, then Mexico City.
And now we're upping the end and we're doing it at
another level.
In the Andes in Peru, still Andes, and I love the Andes all the way from Chile up to Colombia, where we have races. It's something spectacular, something that as a cyclist you have to experience. We often hear people, it's too high for me, I can't do that. Same for us when we came from New York and we raced in Colombia at 12,000 feet. That was too high for us, but it was an amazing experience to actually see that. Yes, we were around cyclists that are used to that, and they were probably usually slower than we are, but it's the experience that counts, and it's something. If you get that experience once in your life to race at that altitude, take it. Don't wait for being in a certain shape for that.
And just so GFNY to just push your boundaries, to go the beyond what you perceive as your limit, right? And basically blow away all of the limiting beliefs that you may have about what you're capable of. We're almost out of time.
GFNY
go ahead,
is
Lydia.
about the experience. So you're at a race experiencing different cultures, meeting new people, GFNY family in the house, and living it and loving it. And it's really like so time to get back to that. We miss it. I watched your intro and I cried because I was so sad to not be there in Fort Lee, because it's such a passion for us, and I'm so happy that you're so positive and you're like, let's talk about the future. And thank you for that. And thank you for hosting the show and celebrating the third Sunday in May.
Well, we can only look ahead, right? And you've given us, I think I just put it in a Facebook post a little bit earlier, that friendship, achievement, inspiration, those are the things that make GFNY special. And that's it's been a life changer for me, and that's one of the reasons that I love to do this. But thank you both so much for joining us. I know it's late there, so we'll let you get to dinner or whatever it is that you need to do.
Well, we keep watching,
we just it's so wonderful to see you both there and smiling and healthy and happy. And I know that everybody misses you. And on to the next big thing. GFNY fall season is coming faster than we think. There's racing to be had in the summer in France, and we just need to go get it.
Yeah.
Hope to see you at any of those races, all of you out there, and thank you for the support through the tough times. That's what kept us going. We could have thrown in the towel, as many have during those 2 years in the event industry. We just doubled down, and you'll see that next year. Thank you for everything.
Right on.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Well, so great to catch up with Lydia and Uli. So much to look forward to, like we said. The French Alps, Alpe d'Huez in just a few weeks. I can't believe it. So from the Alps, we're going to head west to Mexico. I was lucky enough to catch up with Sean Gadd, the director of GFNY Mexico, on Zoom this week. He and Daniela Gadd are constantly working to create more in Mexico. So take it away, Toto. Sean, welcome. You've congratulations on 2020. You ended 2020 with the race in Cozumel successfully put on, and then here in 2021, of course, you just put on the race GFNY Mazatlan, the inaugural edition, and congratulations on all of that. How do you feel after all of that?
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. I feel at ease right now that we were able to put the races on. So definitely more relaxed, up to the point when we didn't have the races and we were wondering if we would be able to have the races first in Cozumel. it was definitely a lot of pressure and tension and wonder of what will be and if it will be possible to even have the races. So, we're very lucky. I think that's something that first I have to say that, even during these times that we were able to have the events and races, a lot of it was that we were very lucky.
So, I mean, challenging times to be sure, but you were able to make everything happen. GFNY was back to racing in 2020 with Florida, and then right on the heels of that was Cozumel, and you really turned up the momentum with these races. So what is it that, just getting away from challenging times, what is it that makes GFNY Mexico so special in every race?
Fact that when you come to Cozumel during race week, it's like the whole island has adopted GFNY, and all you see are GFNY racers. So I think that atmosphere has a lot to do with it. It's not just the race; it's everything wrapped around the race. The celebration, all the restaurants are with special promotions for GFNY. All the tours, everyone is doing something for GFNY, and wherever you go, you see a participant or a friend or family member that is here because of GFNY. So that definitely is a big reason why Cozumel is so successful. We do obviously put a lot of energy in making an amazing race, but we put a lot of energy in giving that week that the people are here the ultimate vacation and race vacation, I guess you could say, for everyone, not just the participants, but everyone that comes with the participants.
Huge. So with all of that, GFNY Mexico being so successful, now you've got Oaxaca coming up September 5th. Monterrey will be back in March. And of course, the crown jewel, Cozumel, on November 7th. All of these destinations are in Mexico, but all of them are unique. That was one of the things that always jumped out to me about GFNY Mexico, is that there's something unique in each one. Like any GFNY, the races are unique, but you've found a unique flavor of each region of Mexico that you produced a race in. So can you tell us what it was that appealed to you that made you think Oaxaca and Mazatlan are just great places to have a race?
You hit it on the nail. It's really the unique flavors of each of those destinations that are what make it appealing to the people. You have the Mexican Caribbean, which is Cozumel. And it's next to Cancun, Tulum, Playa, which are all major hotspots. But on this side of Mexico, on the east side of Mexico, then we just had Mazatlan, the first time we ever had a GFNY race in the Pacific. In the Pacific, it's completely different than the eastern side of Mexico. Forget just that you have the Pacific Ocean there, but the whole atmosphere is completely different than the Caribbean-style Cozumel atmosphere. So those are two destinations that are very easy to distinguish and to promote differently and to appeal to those people that like those flavors. And Oaxaca, for me, really, it's like the true flavor, you could say, of Mexico, where you have really the indigenous culture. You have everything that makes Mexico famous really originates from there, from the cuisine. First of all, if you want to have real Mexican cuisine, and not to say that Cozumel or Mazatlan doesn't, but the real flavor of Mexico, it's Oaxaca cuisine. And the culinary food and meals and chefs and restaurants in Oaxaca are some of the best, if not the best, in all of Mexico. And then you have the streets of Oaxaca, which, you can go to, let's say, Mazatlan has a historic center, and we race through part of it, and you do get a sense of feel of what Mexico is racing through that. Cozumel doesn't really have that historic center. Cozumel really, it's racing along the Mexican Caribbean Ocean on the other side of the island. But Oaxaca has a real historic center. And when you race through it, you feel that you're racing through Mexican streets that will take you back in time, and that you're kind of like, as you're racing, you're going into the culture of what Mexico really is. Not to mention going through the mezcal region, which is something that if you've ever tried mezcal, that's, it comes from Oaxaca, and it's when you race or ride through that region with the hills and the mountains and the views, it's just spectacular. I think Oaxaca probably has the most picturesque views in all of Mexico. Most of the photos you see of Mexico actually come from Oaxaca.
What are your thoughts on the challenges of how you had to make it happen, and how did you apply what you learned from making Cozumel happen at the end of 2020 to make what is the latest and greatest GFNY Mexico success story?
During COVID times, I guess you could say, it has been a challenge. And I think that destinations like Cozumel, Mazatlan, that rely on tourism really for their economy, they want the races and they want to make it happen. And obviously they want to provide the safety for the people that come to visit. So there is a lot of discussion with the local municipalities in the state about what our protocols are, making sure that those are efficient for them, and that we are able to provide first and foremost the correct type of safety for all those people, which we have. There's many different protocols that we have in place, both at the expo, at the starting corals, at the VIP area, the finish area, the recovery area, the aid station. So, we had to really first develop each area's protocols and make sure that you call it Protección Civil, that the sanitary department of the state or the municipality are in agreement with those protocols. It's something that we work diligently on, A, to build it, and B, to promote it, because one thing is you can get it approved by the state, but if the participants don't feel confident in it, then they're not going to come down to race with you. So we had to promote those protocols first and foremost to make sure that people understood that we're doing everything possible to make sure that the race was safe. And in the last two events that we've had in Cozumel and Mazatlan, we've definitely proved that. So that's something that the people see, that we don't stop at anything to make sure that the safety is the first and foremost for everyone. And then at the end of the day, if you talk about the race and how it is to build a race during these special times, every race is different. Putting Cozumel together was completely different than putting Mazatlan together. And I think the first thing that I can say about Mazatlan that was challenging, it wasn't COVID. It was building a race in the middle of elections, where you have two different parties that are both in the state where you're having the event. The state government is one party and the municipal party is another party. And you're in the middle, in between their politics, trying to make the race happen according to your agreements and your authorizations. So that for me, this race was probably the most challenging.
Wow.
Was getting the parties to first get along with each other, I guess you could say, which wasn't easy. And second, to give us everything that was guaranteed in our agreements with them.
One last question for you, and that's for anybody that might be on the fence, having a little bit of race hesitancy, as it were, at this point in time. What would you tell them about your protocols to provide them with the confidence that they need to come and race? Because I've raced since COVID times have started, and just found that the protocols were really the thing in being able to get back to racing safely. So what advice would you give to a racer that's putting their calendar together for the rest of 2021?
Just read today that the CDC is probably going to be lifting requirements for wearing face masks outdoors. So first and foremost, we're an outdoor event. The transmission of a COVID outdoors is minimal, especially now more than ever that many people are vaccinated. Second of all, we still do have obviously all the strict protocols in place, where you have to wear face masks at the corals, you have to wear face masks inside the expo. We limit the amount of people inside the expo at a time, so that there's not a large groups are not formed during any particular moment. And we're obviously, we have what I have in Mexico is we have a COVID task force, where we have people who are monitoring, making sure groups are not forming, making sure everyone is wearing face masks. We've never had a complaint. We've never had even a case of COVID reported to us. Not to say that there hasn't, don't get me wrong, but no one has ever complained about our events. People want to get out now. and more than ever, and people are traveling, and events, especially outdoor events, which I'm going to be very, I'm going to put my point on that, because we are an outdoor event. It's extremely safe. You don't need to worry about getting a virus outdoors. If you were indoors all day with someone singing in front of your face, yeah, maybe then I would think twice about it. But if you're outdoors, if you're racing, you're not even staying still. You have the wind, the breeze, the sun, all of those factors that are helping to protect you. You're pretty safe with us. You don't need to really worry about contracting anything. And now more than ever, with the testing that people get before they come to Mexico, or the requirements that you need to be tested, things like that. It's only going to get safer and safer and safer. And we put these races together in the peak of the pandemic, and we made it happen. So now it's even easier. Now it's less of a worry or a burden for me. Elections are more of a burden for me than COVID right now. So for those that are doubting if I should travel during COVID times, I think you need to ask yourself, COVID is here, just like the flu is here. And if you feel good traveling during flu season, at this point in the game, you should feel confident traveling during COVID season, because, people are pretty well protected now, especially outdoors.
Right on. So last thing, if people have any questions for you about anything GFNY Mexico, how should they get in touch?
You can email me easily, mexico@gfny.com. We answer our emails right away. We're very diligent on that. We have a whole office over here and a whole team that dedicates themselves to taking care of the participants, building the races, the logistics, scouting, things like that. So, we have a lot of fun. At the end of the day, we're cyclists at heart. We all ride. That's, I think, the first requirement if you want to work in GFNY in Mexico, at least, is you have to be a rider. And you have to have a real passion for cycling. I've been in cycling since I can't even remember when I wasn't in cycling. I guess the day I was born, I was in BMX and freestyle and mountain biking, and then road and anything with wheels on it, motorcycles, ATVs. I have fun on two wheels. So when you talk to someone at GFNY Mexico, you're talking to someone who's a cyclist.
Awesome. So, Sean, as always, I want to thank you for your time. I know that you and Daniela never stop moving to make GFNY Mexico what it is. Thanks so much for joining us. I hope to see you in person in the very near future.
My pleasure, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Sean. Truly, it's like a Broadway show or a festival on wheels, as he says, a rousing success in Mazatlan, and so much to look forward to with Oaxaca and Cozumel coming up. I just wanted to give a few shout outs. I know some people are watching. Jose Fulch, you're out there. Tom Nickham, you're out there. Jackie McAllister, you're out there. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. Miguel, Jose, Milou, it's so great to see your comments. Thanks. Keep them coming. And while I've got you here, did you ride today? How was your ride today? Did you set a PR? Did you conquer Gate Hill? How did you do today with making sure that you were getting it done? And speaking of getting it done, we're about to go to GFNY Marathon and talk GFNY Marathon with Valerie Williams. Valerie is our GFNY Ambassador for Marathon, and she's going to be running the inaugural GFNY Marathon Florida. And I'm about to bring her on right here. Valerie, welcome. Can you hear me?
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I am fantastic. It's so good to see you again. We spent some time talking marathon last week, so I just want to see if we can go back through some of what you and I had discussed. How do you come to GFNY to be an ambassador for GFNY?
Yeah. So funny. Is my mic okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you great.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, again, thanks for asking and thanks for having me. So again, my husband is a huge GFNY fan. And so we were introduced to GFNY probably about 5 years ago in New York City. And I saw that it was just a top-notch event. We had tons of fun there. And since then, we've been riding GFNY all over in Mexico, Dominican Republic. And when I heard that they were starting the inaugural marathon in Florida. I knew that I had to be a part of it. And then Yuli reached out asking, for ambassadors. And so I hopped on board.
Awesome. And while I know you don't consider yourself a cyclist, you did do the medium route in Dominican Republic.
I did. And somehow I wound up coming in the top 10. I don't know how that happened, but yeah. So I went there, I got it done, and check.
Hashtag skills. That's what you have. So you have a long history with running, though. So tell us something about your marathon experience.
Yeah, so I've been running about 20 years now. So I've got a few miles on my legs and on my feet. I started with kind of just like a dare. Somebody said, hey, there's a marathon coming up. I bet you're not going to do it. And I'm like, maybe I could. And so it was the Bataan Memorial Death March in New Mexico. That was my first one. Again, as luck would have it, beginner's luck, I wound up coming in second place for that one. And that kind of gave me a little bit of desire, I guess, a little bit of passion, like, what else is in the tank? What else might I be able to do? And so since then, I've just been chasing marathons pretty much all around the world. I've had the good fortune of being able to live in Japan, and so I've run the Tokyo Marathon a couple times. I've been fortunate enough to qualify for Boston twice before. I've done the Air Force Marathon, and so just spent probably the past 15, 20 years searching for different races to run, trying to fit that into my schedule, and of course, always chasing after that elusive PR, right?
Well, you're like any other endurance athlete. You're always looking for a race, always looking for a PR. That's just how it works. So we talked, when you and I talked last week during the Daily Coffee episode that's going to air this week, we talked a little bit about your approach to training because it's different from cycling, right? And so some people that are watching today might be cyclists that are thinking about doing the marathon, doing the half marathon in Florida, right? You know me, I'm a cyclist, but I'll be doing the marathon in Florida. So I've started to do my training. And, I think I shared some of my experience with kind of how it went and how it's been going. And it's different. So what's your approach to training for a marathon?
Yeah, so definitely the number one key is to train. So even if you're doing the half marathon, you can kind of get by with a half marathon without training too much, but you don't want to be miserable the next day. So find a training plan and stick to it. That's key. And as I mentioned before, you can, if you're just new and you're just wanting to finish the marathon, just Google one online. There's tons of free marathon training plans out there that are pretty basic, that are sufficient to get you to the finish line, right? And feel okay the next day. If you're looking to PR, this is your second or third marathon, and you want to get that faster time, then I would really encourage you to reach out to a coach or find an advanced plan out there. You do need to add in some different type of runs to your schedule, and there's certain things that you really need to look for and train for to ensure that you're ready to tackle that PR on race day. So again, number one, find a plan and stick to it. That's the first element that you must do. Second is don't cheat yourself on those long runs. The long runs are kind of painful sometimes, and they take up a lot of your time, but they're probably the most important run. You need that time on your feet to build up that pounding, so your legs can handle the time that you're going to be out there on race day. You also need those tempo runs. I talked before about that long distance tempo run. To me, that one is the key. That one builds up that lactate threshold that you need to be able to push through when your body is begging you to stop and you still have 8 or 10 more miles to go. And then, of course, for your speed work, if you're looking to PR, you want to get in those I do mile intervals. Some people still like the 800s, but I wouldn't go anything below an 800 for a marathon. So stick to those mile repeats. And those are really the 3 key runs that you need to do. Don't cheat your training plan. You're only cheating yourself, and really stick to those long runs every week.
Yeah. And there are some mistakes to be made there, but there's also some nuances to learn. Like my coach just had me starting on the 800s because up until now, I hadn't been doing any speed work like you've been discussing, right? So I had been doing all sort of not quite tempo, and I wondered why I wasn't getting any faster. So we started 800s, and the 800s have been challenging, although I would have to say rewarding. But those long runs, there are some mistakes that you can make in going too long or doing too much, because again, it's not like cycling. We talked about this where if I'm getting ready for a 100-mile bike race, I'm probably going to go out there and dial up 120 miles in preparation for that, so that I know that I can take the time in the saddle, right? But it's a much lower impact than the running is. So you don't want to necessarily go out and run 28 miles so you know you can run 26.
Absolutely. So again, it will really depend on how many marathons maybe you've done in the past. Age always plays a factor, whether you've had previous injuries or not. Most running plans are going to set you up to that 18, 20, or 22-mile mark. You do not need to go out and try to run a full 26 miles before the marathon. That is definitely not recommended unless you're an elite athlete. Ideally, you want to do the least amount of training that's going to get you the best results. So there's definitely a fine line there as to the return on the investment that you're getting for the training. You don't want to put so much training on your training plan, overwhelm your body, if you will, so that you set yourself up for injury. So you have to be really careful about how much you add on, how quickly, and then again, really test yourself. Is running that extra 2 miles going to give you any benefit on race day or not? And anytime you're putting extra miles on during the week, you're building that volume, you're building the intensity, you're setting yourself up for risk of injury. So that's what you really have to take in consideration. And so if you've done several marathons and you know what those last 6 to 8 miles are going to be like, an 18-mile long run might be just right for you. Regardless of how many 20-mile runs you run before the marathon day, those last 8 miles are still going to suck. That's the only way to put it, right? I don't think there's any better way.
That. You have to embrace that at times, right? And the last thing that we'll close off on, and this is one point that you brought up last week that I thought was just great. And I know that I've heard Lydia say this on other episodes of Daily Coffee: race to train, right? Race to train. So you pulled me into a half marathon just as sort of a readiness exercise of, learning what you can put yourself through as far as a challenge. So what's your philosophy on that?
Yeah, so a couple of different things there, and good on you for joining me. So I'm actually looking forward to that. I think we're about a month out, right? So that'll be a good indicator of, one, it serves as a great indicator of how well you can perform. I think for most people, going out and running 13 miles on my own versus going out and running 13 miles in an actual race environment, you'll find that your results are going to be much better, right? Because you're just challenging yourself a little bit more, the vibe, the community around you, other runners. So you really get to see how far you can push yourself on race day. And then the second thing to that is, too many times we get just focused in on logging the miles. And at the end of your training plan, if you're doing a 24-week training plan like I am, that's a long time. And so it can start to not feel so fun. And so when you add in these races throughout your training plan, you really bring back the fun back into running. And that's why we all do it. We all want to have fun. We want to improve our health, but we don't want it to be terrible and suck the entire time. So adding in those races can really add an element of fun in. Plus, it allows you to really test your physical ability on any given day. Many times we need to adjust our training plan. Another key thing, and I know we're getting close to ending here, but you always have to train at the level where you are right now. So although I've had some great PRs in the past, I am not at that level right now. So I can't hold myself to those same standards, right? So sometimes, if we're looking to set a certain PR on race day, that half marathon or the race that we're running during our training plan really lets us know whether we need to up our intensity or scale back our intensity a little bit. Again, we want to do the least amount that's going to give us the best results, and always training where we are in that moment. So having fun, getting yourself ready for race day, and just, again, testing your fitness.
Awesome. Well, Valerie, it's always great to talk to you. I look forward to seeing you in Philadelphia in June, right before I depart for Vaujany. So it's going to be challenge after challenge after challenge getting ready. So thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you in June. And
yeah, Chris, thanks so much for having me. Take care.
All right. Valerie's huge at the whole marathon aspect of things. Are you running the GFNY Florida Marathon? If you are, let us know in the comments. Let us know also if you're going to do the marathon and the bike race, because if you're doing both, that's kind of a special double to be doing. So let us know in the comments if you're going to be doing that. The running takes place largely during the week. So with running taking place during the week, on Sundays, we go to group rides. And for group rides, I can think of nobody better to talk to than Jared Skolnick, who is the head of group rides for Grupo Sportivo. Jared, welcome. Can you hear me okay, buddy?
I hear you just fine.
Awesome. First of all, how was the ride today?
It was our first true spring day. It was beautiful out. The roads were packed with runners and cyclists and people out with their dogs and kids. And it's the longest we've done all year. I mean, it was 55 miles, which is not that long, but at the same time, it was the first time we've done that all season. So it felt great. We had a really good time out there today. And yeah, just finishing up my recovery drink now. So we, like you said, it's been a hit or miss winter, but the good news is now we have time to train for the fall season, right? So in the theme of this whole show, looking ahead, what do we have to look forward to? We're going to have group rides now through the summer and into the fall. So tell us what that's going to be like. Well, first I'll tell you what I'm not looking ahead to, which is running. You will not find me running any of these things. I'm thrilled you're doing what you're doing and applaud all those runners out there. But I got on a bike for a reason, which is I can't run, and I'm fine with that. But what are we looking forward to for the group rides? Yeah, we are going to continue through what has been our off season and make it our season now, summer and fall. So we're going to ride next week. We're going to take Memorial Day weekend off, and then we will start a roughly every other week program. I'm going to map that out based on the summer holidays so that we, we're not scheduling rides on weekends. We know people aren't going to be around. But twice a month should be better because, people do take trips and things in the summer or go to the beach and things like that. But twice a month. And it'll also give us the freedom to do some different rides, some longer rides. We already had people today asking about the orchards and about Bear Mountain. So we will definitely do a few of those fun rides with some destinations, if you will. So
people want to get their climb on too, right? People want to get to tackling the big climbs of GFNY. Maybe we do, the cheese coat Pinarello trip, or maybe we do the bear trip or the orchard trip with a little tour mixed in. Maybe.
I mean, I love doing that. So yes.
Okay.
Today was interesting because it was the most climbing we've done in a while. So it was a 55-mile route with 3,000 vertical feet, which is not that much, but it was more than we've been doing. And most of it was the first half of the ride. So by the time we reached the midpoint, the roughly what you would call turnaround point, even though it was more of a loop, people were like, oh my God, that was a lot we're dead. But then the ride back went really fast because it was relatively flat. We effectively did half the GFNY course today. I just joked with everybody. We did the easy half because we didn't do the hardest climbs, but doing you're reminded when you do this that the first 25 miles has a lot of climbing. They're not enormously big ones, but there's just a lot of overall 25 miles, 2,200 vertical feet are done. So that's a good thing in one respect, but it also means, the climbing is definitely there.
Yeah, it's a funny thing because if you go out and you purposely go to climb Bear Mountain and you do one of those trips like I do sometimes during the summer where I start in Rockland Lake or Haverstraw and I go out and do the big climbs and I think, wow, I did really well today. And then I remember, I didn't have that first 43 miles in my legs before I got there. So, but you did. So who can join these rides now over the summer?
Yeah, so anybody who's registered for GFNY NYC 2022 now, so that means if you were registered for 2020 or 21 and carried over, you're eligible. And now we have the GFNY Club, which also gives you access to the group rides. And, we're starting to see some momentum around the club. And I think that's really exciting because it has more of that local flair and local feel that you sign up for this and you become part of something that is all year round as opposed to just focused on the race itself.
Right on, and some good extending benefits like front corrals and other stuff that just sort of a gift that keeps on giving, which is really huge. Anything before we go, Jared, that you want to remind riders of when they're out on a group ride?
Yeah, I mean, it's always safety first, and we all want to be really careful. And these are also social rides. So, like, we're not out there to race. Every now and then, we'll pick a climb, and we'll be like, okay, let's all race. I'll meet you at the top. And that's part of the fun. But safety and social come first. And today was a great example because we did do a bit of a speech before the ride because we were riding through towns like Pyrmont and Nyack, which tend to be very crowded and tend to have police that are looking to make sure cyclists are single file. And B, it was just a crowded day in general. So I told everybody, just reminded everybody, be single file, take your time. Don't worry about what else is happening, and let's just be the good riders out there and be the courteous ones because we're out there to have a good time. And on most of the climbs today, I told everybody I want to be able to talk to all of you while we're climbing. So don't push it because then we can't talk. It's not very social if we're all huffing and puffing. Right on, Jared. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm sorry I missed the ride, but I look forward to getting back in the saddle next week. Excellent. See you next time. Right. And glad you guys are doing this. It's so much fun. All right. Thanks, buddy. Cheers. Thanks. Bye. Okay, so from the group ride, we're going to bounce back to Europe now. GFNY Italy was postponed until October, but it's back on in the sister cities of Montepulciano and Torrita di Siena. These are amazing and beautiful places. The food, the sights, it's history manifest in a physical place. It's amazing. So the GFNY Ambassador for Italia, Mr. Wolf, the leader of Gruppo Sportivo GFNY Italia, Mirko DP, I had a buona fortuna to speak to him, my good friend, via Zoom this week. Take it away, Toto. Okay, I'm here with my good friend Mirko DP. Mr. Wolf, How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you. Was looking forward to see you again.
Yeah, I mean, we're all talking about how it would have been great to have the 11th edition in New York, but we're making adjustments. But the good news is GFNY Italia is on, right, in October. So tell us about what the race is going to look like this year. Is it the same course as it was in Montepulciano in 2019?
Yes, same course, same excitement. The race is confirmed. So the cities were super happy to host the race again. And it's going to be a really exciting race. It's a tricky one. As you know, the course is not very long, just 107K and about 2,000 meter elevation. The course is pretty hilly, but there are a couple of surprises by the end of the course. So people should be ready and aware of it.
And at that end of the course, if you don't leave something in the tank, so to speak, for those last climb back into the city, you may have a difficult time getting back.
Yeah, let's say you need a couple of cartridges to be shooted by the last two climbs. Actually, as I said at the beginning, the course is super tricky because just by the end of the race, you see Montepulciano upon the hill. So mentally, you are just, okay, you're just done. So the first thing is a couple of steps long 4K, and the steepness is from 8% up to 14%. So during this 4K, you have to just manage your last fuel in the tank to approach to, let's say, to the ancient wall of Montepulciano, which is welcome the arrival. But this is not the end, because when you cross the door of the city, the ancient door of Montepulciano, then there the fun begins. Yes, you have the last few 100 meters on the ancient pavé, and the steepest part is about 22%. So it's just few 100 meters, but you are just surrounded by the spectators, families and friends cheering you just to get at full gas to the arrival, and that is really unbelievable.
And the roads up to the piazza, they're very narrow, right? And it's almost like you're riding indoors because you're in the walled city. So
Yeah.
it's kind of incredible to be going uphill that way, and you have to gain momentum going up.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, if you are skilled enough, you can give high five to the spectators. That would be
I
nice.
am not skilled enough.
No, you can do it. And let me tell you also, when the race marshals will escort the head of the race through the city of Torrita di Siena, we are going across another little town, which is super nice. And we do thank the mayor as well, because the town is super tiny. The walls are super high. So when you cross the very, very narrow roads into the town, then you get excited because you see just the people next to you. So you have sharp corners. You get to the main square where the mayor lives, and they welcome you, and with the flag players. And so you just cross the square, and then you keep going, and the race is open. That is an amazing start. Very unique.
A very amazing start. And then as you make your way through the next climb or two, then you make your way down to the first sector of Strade Bianche.
Strade Bianche, there you go. That would be the first and the third one. Because going out the city, you're going to cross this sector, which is very nice because it's super safe, because it's Strade Bianche, of course, but you have been riding there. And the road is safe, so you can just ride downhill pretty fast, maybe 30 miles per hour, very easy. And then you approach to the second sector of Strade Bianche, which is a little bit more tough. And the main selection will be done, I would say, at the second sector of Strade Bianche. If you will be surviving at the second sector, and then you wanna just cross the gap with the head of the course to the third sector, you must be in a good shape. And then, the third sector will just close your experience on the Strade Bianche, but we'll let let's say, the riders into the two final climbs we were talking before.
Now, because this is such a challenging course, because this course is different in so many ways, you run the camp for the entire week leading up to the race, where it was my experience and my wonderful experience that you taught us how to ride the Strade Bianche, right? Get in the drops, big gear, sort of how to float over the gravel, and how to keep pedaling through it. You gave us so many tips, but I think the most important tip that you gave me was before that 14% hill was you told me the night before, you said, if it seems too steep, just go slower. And that was what got me up the hill in the race, when it seemed too steep, I just went a little slower. So tell us a little bit about how you like to help people out in the camp.
Yeah, actually, as you said, we had friends, clients, riders coming from like 11 countries during the camp. And we had 18 clients joining the camp. And I remember the faces of people that didn't know me, because I knew you before, so I knew how to deal with you. But I didn't know people that I never met before. So with Uli, Lydia, and I, we worked together to let people feel safe on the Strade Bianche. So we introduced the the people to the course, approaching to how to corner, how to approach the course, what is the best position to ride the Strade Bianche, how to move on the saddle, backward, forward, on the drops, on the handlebar, and which gear to use. So we saw the people improving from the first day. Like they were super shy and super frightened. Some of them were frightened. By the end of the week, they were super happy, and now they can ride also gravel bike. We have Abdul. You can see now he's riding the gravel bike. He made me so proud. At the beginning, he was like not super feeling super safe on the road, on the Strade Bianche, and now he's riding a gravel bike. So actually, we're gonna help people to improve their skills on the Strade Bianche. At the same time, we're gonna enjoy beautiful routes, different routes every day, and with different elevation on the hilly course in a mighty land, which is Tuscany. So it's gonna be an unbelievable experience.
Just a beautiful place to be, an amazing place to be, amazing food.
Yeah, you're right.
I think it was as far as my experiences eating in Italia, it was one of the most unique because I love meat. So Toscana was a great place to be a meat eater as well as a pasta eater. And we had an Italian chef come to our place and teach us how to make something. But one of the things that sticks with me was the bike handling skills that I learned from you in the camp that have just stayed, like you said, about the gravel riders now that know how to do that because of what they learned in the camp. The confidence that I have as a bike handler, a lot of that came from the two camps that I've done 2 camps with you now.
Yeah.
In Italy, one in Terracina and one a month. Exactly right.
And I still have this one. The first time I met you. Now it's already 5 years.
I know. I have to write another book. So we're working on one about learning how to run a marathon as a cyclist right now. But that's a whole other story. So
yeah.
Anything else that you want to tell us, Mirko, about GFNY Italia, why people should put it on their race calendar? It's at a beautiful time of year in Toscana.
Yeah, it's like any GFNY camp. I would say the future is today. Just book the camp. Don't wait like next year, 2 years. Let's say next year what you can do or not you can do. It's now. The race is on. Many races, GFNY races, are on, like June 20 with La Vosgiani, 2 Alpe d'Huez, and again by the end of August, GFNY France, always happening in Vosgiani, which is an unbelievable camp. I would say you are scared of the Alps. You don't have time in June or August. Just come to Italy. It's a good time to wine tasting, as you say, food, and then you meet nice people like you, me, Uli, Lydia, and all GFNY, fans, and it's just unbelievable. Then you can enjoy Tuscany. You can have our, small rides in the morning. You are free in the afternoon. We can do many things together, like booking a cooking class. You can go to the wellness center. You can visit the vineyards, and you can't be bored.
And these are ancient cities. Montepulciano, Torrita di Siena. They're ancient cities with a lot of history to them, which is just one. As a history enthusiast, that's really one of the most wonderful things about it.
Let me ask you a question. What is the oldest building you have in New York?
Oh. I don't know that I can tell you, but it's not as old as any of the buildings in Montepulciano. I can say that.
Yes, that's the unbelievable thing. I mean, New York is beautiful, but when you come to Italy, here is the history. We own actually the 85% of the world history. So it just come over and visit any city around Montepulciano or just land in Rome. Then you take the car, 2 hours driving, and then you hit to Montepulciano. Yeah.
Yeah, not a difficult drive from Rome, by the way. Having done the drive, we did it in a couple of hours. Had a nice coffee stop along the way, and we were there very quickly. So, Mirko, I cannot thank you enough for joining us today. Thank you so much for everything you do for GFNY, and we look forward to seeing you in October or at another one of the races where you're at the camp. Will you be in either of the Vosgeny races?
Probably yes. I'm on standby for June 20th, but I will be definitely there on August. So we'll meet in August.
Okay, and if you make it on June 20, I'll see you there.
Yeah, sure.
But otherwise, I will see you in August.
Yeah, anytime.
Right. Thank you, my friend. Ciao, ciao.
Love you, Chris.
Love you too. Grazie, Mirko. I hope to see you again soon in Europe or back here in the USA as things even out. All of these conversations lead us back to the GFNY calendar. So just give me a quick second and I'm going to bring it up. Excuse me as I look away just for a moment. But here's the good news. We have so much to look forward to. We'll have the GFNY New York City Championship back in May of 2022. But in the meantime, GFNY La Vosgeny coming up in June, just a few short weeks away. Can you believe that? Peru coming up July 11th. If you want to get outside your comfort zone, get to South America, see one of the most historic places in the world in Cusco. GFNY Day, we will be right back here in this very studio for GFNY Day with so much more and all about what we will look forward to in the GFNY fall season. And that'll bring us into Alps Vosgeny, which will be, as Lydia and Uli had spoken about, the other race in France currently, the first race back in France that brought us back from the pandemic, right? So Col de Croix de Fer, Col de Glendon, these are beautiful, beautiful climbs. Then GFNY Oaxaca at the beginning of September, right? So you go right out of Labor Day weekend, right to one of the most historic places in Mexico. GFNY Santa Fe is back on the calendar and confirmed. That will kick off the GFNY, #GFNY fall season, where we have Ecuador, Jerusalem, Bali. If you want to really go outside your comfort zone, go to the other side of the world and see one of the most amazing places in the world. Italia, of course, as we just heard from Mirko, October 17th. And then GFNY Florida Marathon and Florida Bike Race back to back. I will be doing both. We'll see how that works out. The historic city of Colonia in Uruguay will be the host to GFNY Uruguay this year in November, followed right on the same day with Cozumel. So it's a GFNY Super Sunday, GFNY Chile right before Thanksgiving. And then we start the calendar all over again in March with GFNY Monterey. Toto, I think we want to roll in some of the great participation that we had today in the third Sunday in May. So many people got out there and took photos. And so we're going to pop over to the video to see what's playing. Jared started with a great cup of coffee this morning in his GFNY mug, which I am also still working on my coffee. Great to see everybody out for the group ride. It looks like the group ride was amazing today. Just great weather. Like Jared said, it was the first spring day. Mariachi with his Corvito. What a beautiful view of the river from Allison Park. Big group today. Brenda, looking for her Uber. Our friend Frank Lee was in South Korea riding today in his GFNY kit. We've also, in the comments, got some stuff from the GFNY Grupo Sportivo. Mike Benowitz is out there. Vito's out there. He says he had a great ride. Mike Benowitz, #single file next week if you're out on the group ride. Okay. Toto getting it done in the studio here today, making it all happen. And then Toto on the podium in 2015. Wonder Twin powers activate at Rockland Lake. I don't know where that location is, but it looks good. The water's there. We had a great ride today. Looks like there's some great rides and some amazing places today. So glad that you all tagged that a finisher medal there. Valerie's shoes, it looks like. She's getting ready to run. Indonesia is in the house. That looks like the top of Bear to me. Keith Schlanger at the top of Bear. And there's Grasshopper with the killer bees today. Oliver. Uncle Paul. And we are out from social. Thank you so much for participating today. Before we go, I want to thank my dear friend and production partner, Chris Toto Torella, and his company, Pickerel Pie Entertainment, for the studio, the lighting, the grip, the editing, the overall direction. Chris is a top-notch producer, and he kept me on task, kept us on task. He did so much of the heavy lifting and the legwork that goes into something this involved, and he made it look easy. Finally, thanks to all of you for watching, for sharing your time, for racing GFNY, for sending your photos. Please explore the calendar, and we hope to see you at a GFNY race in the next couple of months. So we will be back here, like I said, right here, August 15th for GFNY Day. So be ready. And thank you, Lydia and Uli, for your support and for bringing us this gift of GFNY. And thank you to all our guests. We're going to leave you now, but thank you for joining.